Hey, I don't know why I always make faces in the very beginning. We'll wait for some people to pop on. Hey, Nella, how are you? Thanks for joining. Hey, everybody. Thanks for sharing. Tell me where you guys are watching from. Like, what city are you in? I'm always interested to know where people are. I am in Dallas. So that's very exciting. I don't know if you hear my dog is about to make an appearance. So I'm talking about writing and publishing books today. Hey, Connecticut. Oh, that's awesome. I used to work in Connecticut long time ago when I worked at ESPN. So good to see you. So I wanted to talk about writing today, and I was curious to see if anybody had any questions about writing books or publishing. I get a lot. Oh, North Carolina. Hey. Good to see you. I lived in North Carolina too. I've lived a lot of places in my career, so I was in North Carolina for a while too. But I also get a lot of questions about writing, publishing, and that sort of thing in my inbox, so I can also answer those. How many of you guys on here have actually written a book? Has anybody written a book that's on, or anybody want to write a book that's on? Thank you, Nella, for sharing. I appreciate it. If anybody that's on could share, that would be great. If you could tap the screen and give some hearts if you're excited to be here on a Thursday, that would be awesome as well. Still waiting to see if anybody is interested in writing a book or has written a book or not. Thank you, Nella. Nella, you're so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, you've written 3 books. So how does one pick a publisher? Well, that's a good question. So there's like 3 different ways to go with publishing a book. So you can do the self-publishing. Hey, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Anytime anybody calls me gorgeous. I love it. You can self-publish. You can go the traditional publisher route, or you can do something in between called hybrid publishing. And there are also a lot of smaller boutique publishers. So you need to decide which route. So if you've definitely decided you don't want to self-publish, then you need to decide between whether or not you want to do a smaller boutique publisher, whether you want to do some kind of hybrid publishing, or whether or not you're trying to go with a traditional publisher like Penguin or Random House or one of those. So we'll deal with the traditional publisher first. If you're going to go that route, generally you need to find a literary agent. You hear, I don't have an accent. I don't think so. Well, I've been in Dallas a while, so maybe I picked up, definitely maybe I've picked up a little twang. I don't know. Thank you for all the hearts. I appreciate that. So if you decide to go to, with a traditional publisher, normally it's best to find a literary agent who can navigate those waters. So the great thing about a literary agent is they've already developed, hopefully, those relationships with the publishers so that they can, make introductions. They can do all of that kind of stuff on your behalf and get your book in to be considered for that. So that's what's great about the traditional publishing and the literary agent. A lot of that work gets done for you as far as negotiations and introductions and all that kind of stuff. If you want to go with a smaller boutique publisher, those are a lot easier to get into without a literary agent. And so depending on what your book is about, what's your book about? What's like the subject matter of your books? So depending on what your subject matter is, there are all sorts of different boutique publishers that specialize, like in Christian fiction, like an African American, nonfiction, whatever. They're specialized. Some are just business published. They only want books about business. So just depending on what kind of book you have, depends on which boutique publisher you might want to go to. And then they're kind of like hybrid publishing companies where it's a mixture of self-publishing and them helping you do it. So it's more like self-guided. Or guided self-publishing. And so they say they're the publisher, but actually you're really self-publishing with their help. And so that's great too if you're not understanding, which direction that you wanted to go in. What if somebody wanted, I hope that was helpful. What if someone wanted to create a graphic novel? So what's funny about graphic novels? When I first started hearing the term graphic novel, I thought it meant that it was like, like they cursed a lot or something. I thought it was like graphic language. So graphic novels are great. I mean, I think the biggest issue with the graphic novel is, are you an artist? The biggest issue with the graphic novels is finding somebody that can illustrate it. or draw the cartoon part. Oh, so you're okay. So great. So I don't think that it's going to be any more difficult, especially if you self-publish. You would just have to be careful with how you self-publish, because I believe with Amazon it's kind of difficult to get a lot of drawings and different illustrations and graphics. So you would have to find just like a printing company, really, or Ingram Sparks might work, that works more with the graphic part of it. Amazon or CreateSpace, which is Amazon's product for self-publishing, really doesn't do well with all that kind of stuff. So you might not be able to do that. Or like I said with the other one, on Black, Native American, and Latina superheroes. Oh, that's awesome. I would love to see it, actually. Or you can find a boutique publisher that may specialize in that. And because graphic novels are becoming so popular, I'm sure there's people out there that do it. But the biggest thing with the graphic novel that you've already solved, since you're an author, an artist, is finding somebody that can do the designs and do it in such a way that you guys both make money and it's not a real big expensive journey out of the gate. So that's awesome. Congratulations. I don't know any literary agents that specialize in that, but you can Google it. And I think not Publishers Clearinghouse. There is a literary magazine, and it's right there on the tip of my tongue. I talk about it all the time, and now I can't think of it. A Writer's Digest. So if they have all the time, they have different literary agencies, they have different publishing companies. You can always pick up one of those and find somebody that works specifically with your area. Most of the literary agents I know, oh, thank you for all the hearts. I appreciate that. Most of the literary agents that I know work specifically with like nonfiction and fiction, which is what I write. So I did the research, and I haven't worked with anybody that's in that particular area. And so I don't know, but oh, thank you. But Writer's Digest always has like a lot of that great information. And as far as writing a poetry book and making it more descriptive, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. But what I love now, especially about, the internet and social media and being so interactive, is you can do a lot of things. Even if you're like writing a book, you can do a lot of things outside that book to make it more engaging. So even with some of the books that I write, I'll do things like I'll create an online course for people who want to go deeper into whatever the subject matter is, or I'll create a journal, or, but if you're writing like poetry and you want it, maybe there's some music or, that you can have created to go with it, that just makes it more of an interactive and deeper experience for the person reading the book. That's just my suggestion. But there's so many different things that you can do now to make it really fun. Oh, you just Googled it. You're welcome. I'm glad that was helpful. There's so many that pop up so often that it's really hard to always narrow down, it's like, especially with like specialized content that you're talking about. So that's probably going to be the best way to go. And then I would just suggest that, you find a 2 or 3 or 4, and then really interview them and figure out like who they've worked with, who, what's been happening and all that kind of stuff. What would you give to make your work more, I don't know, more descriptive? I'm not really a poetry. I don't write poetry really. I've written some, but it's not really my forte. But I think most poetry, I enjoy poetry. So I think for me, most spoken word or poetry or songs, it's really, you have to really tap into that emotion. So whatever the emotion is behind the poem, you really have to, you really have to bring that out in the poetry. And so for other artists that work in that arena that I know a lot of times they test it out on people a lot just to make sure that they're hitting home. Especially if you're looking to get it mainstream and it's not just like for you to enjoy. You really have to try it out on people and see what their reaction is, and then really focus on that. But the emotion is really what's going to really bring it home. So that's awesome. I really appreciate that kind of creativity and artwork, because it's something that is not, like I said, my forte. No, don't do your own editing. Do not do your own editing. No, you need to find an editor. Absolutely. I talk about editing all the time. Do I put emotions behind my work? Absolutely. I mean, like, in entertainment, I'm going to go back to the editing because I think that takes a little bit more time. But in entertainment, and I consider writing to be a part of that, whenever you're like trying to touch people, you either need to make them laugh, you need to make them cry, or you need to make them feel like they first fell in love. Those are like the three big emotions you want to bring out in people. And so even though like a lot of the subject matter, especially for my nonfiction, is very emotional and very, tugs at the heartstrings, definitely just because of that. Even when I write fiction, I'm very focused on emotion, because if you can make people feel something, they will be a fan for life. It's when we walk away from anything, like a song, a movie, a book, and we haven't felt anything, that's the problem. So absolutely, I do my best to put emotion in it. And if I can't still feel it, like even if I've read the book for the 10th time and I can't feel that emotion, if it just fades because it's not, then I'll do something about it to fix it, because you guys, my clothes is, okay. You absolutely want to make sure that they feel the emotion. So now back to editing, because this is my pet peeve. Do not edit your own your own book. And you may be the best person with grammar and English, and I get it. But unfortunately, when we write the book, our mind plays tricks on us. And so, we'll put words in where they shouldn't be. We'll correct words when they're wrong. We do all of that kind of stuff. And so you want to be very careful. A literary agent normally does not find the editor. A lot of times literary agents want to see a work that's, especially if this is your first book, they want to see a work that's pretty much close to being done, so that they can just shop it directly to the publisher. I mean, literary agents get paid when, they can shop it. So no, I would suggest that you do a round of editing. You find an editor and do a round of editing yourself. If you want to email me, I can send you a list of people that I've worked with that I find are good. But for me, the tips to finding a good editor is, whatever work they've done before. So whenever somebody suggests an editor, even when I suggest an editor, you want to ask them, like, who have you edited? So you can go look at their work. And then sometimes, and the good editors will do this, ask them to edit like a chapter of your book or 2 to 3 pages of your book, so you can see their editing style and you can see what kind of feedback. Oh, thank you. You can see what kind of feedback they give you. Okay, hold on for a second. We've been looking for a lost dog. Yes. Did you find the dog? No? Oh, well, good try, honey. That was really nice of you. There was a dog. I'm just going to tell this quick story. There was a dog when we were driving home. I picked my son up from band practice, and we were driving home, and this lady passed us and she flagged us down. She's like, "Do you have time to deal with a dog? I'm late. Somebody's got to deal with the dog." And so he's been riding his bike and running around. That dog did not want to be caught. So hopefully the owner found him, but we were not successful in our attempts to find the dog. But no, you're welcome. But yeah, whenever you're going through the editing process or you're looking for a new editor, all the good editors do not mind you asking for referrals. They do not mind doing a sample edit, even if it's just a page or two, so you can see like what their editing style is, because they could be a great editor, but you may not fit with their style. So that's important too, because this really is your baby, and you want to make sure that you put it in hands that you not only trust, but that you can work well with, because now you kind of become a team. So definitely, whenever you find an editor, what is the standard for a literary agent? Don't want to get taken. Oh no, I get it. Most agents are between like 16 and 20%. Of whatever you're gonna get paid. So it's not bad, but considering the amount of work that they have to do, it's well worth it. And considering that you might not even get the book sold if you don't have an agent, I think it's well worth it. So yeah, it's not. I mean, it's a pretty standard percentage, and that's really that's fair. You guess that's fair. That's fair, because they end up negotiating all the contracts. I mean, and they get a percentage of what they negotiate for you. So there's always an interest for them to negotiate, for a great amount of money, and then they follow up with all the paperwork and the legalities. Yes, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. As my dad said, you could either have 10% of 20,000 or 10% of nothing. And so, which, you could either have a manuscript that sells for 20, 50,000, or you could have nothing. So literary agents are definitely awesome when they're good. So just definitely, do your research. And that really, with anything in business, especially as an entrepreneur or especially as somebody who's, really passionate about what they do, you just want to make sure you do your research. And so that, you don't get taken. So I'm going to sign off. Good luck. Do you want my email address? I will, you can send me and I'll send you some editors. It's support@nikkywoodsmedia.com, and I'll just send you who I've worked with. And even if that's not really in your genre, sometimes they'll recommend other editors that might really work well with you and what you do. So you can always email me and I'll send that over to you. All right? Support@Nikki, Nikki, woodsmedia.com. Support@nikkywoodsmedia.com. All right, you guys, I will see you later. Have a good day. Thanks for popping on with me.